Hey y'all, today we're making flavored instant rice mixes. Okay, so we're actually going to make 6 of these, but I didn't count right when I started, so that's why you see 5 jars. So what I'm doing, these are 8-ounce jars, and we're going to use some instant rice or some minute rice, whatever you call it, wherever you're from. It's the quick cooking rice for anybody who doesn't know. So we're going to add a half of a cup to each one of our 8-ounce jars, okay? These are single servings, and the recipes for the single servings will be in the description box for y'all as usual. Now, the reason my rice is coming out of a jar, for those of y'all who haven't followed me for very long, I made my own instant rice. The reason behind that is because I like a rice that's like a high protein with a lower glycemic index, just a little bit healthier, and it doesn't come in instant rice. So for things like this, if I want to use my own rice, I have to make it myself. So that's what I did. But I will be sure to link the video down in the description box for y'all if you want to learn how to make your own, but you can use the store-bought. It will work just as well. So the first flavor we're going to make is Spanish rice. And all of these are super simple, y'all, with tiny bits of seasoning because it's only a single serving. So you're going to add to your half a cup of rice 2 teaspoons of tomato bouillon powder. Then we're going to add in here, how much? 1/8 of a teaspoon of minced onion flakes. And then I'm going to add in a 1/16 of a teaspoon of salt and 1/16 of a teaspoon of chili powder. And I know some of y'all are probably thinking, 1/16 of a teaspoon, well, you're barely adding anything in there. But like I said, it's a single serving, so we don't need teaspoons and tablespoons of the majority of the stuff we're putting in here. And trust me, for this little tiny amount of rice that we're cooking, this is a good amount of seasoning. But feel free to adjust it if you don't feel that it's enough, okay? Make you one up, taste it, see how it goes, add some more seasoning if you need it. But that is it. That's our Spanish rice, our little individual serving. And I'm going to make one at the end of the video so y'all can see how to do it too. Okay, the next one that we're going to do is herb butter rice. So to our half a cup of rice, we are going to add some chicken bouillon powder. Now, y'all know I make my own homemade, but I'm still working through the store-bought stuff just so I can get it out of my cabinet because I'm definitely not going to throw it away because I'm too cheap for that. So I added in 1 teaspoon of the chicken bouillon powder, and then I'm going to add in a half a teaspoon of butter powder. If you don't have butter powder, you can just add a little teaspoon of butter when you cook this, okay? So next I'm going to add in some parsley. I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of parsley. And most measuring spoons will come with the smaller amounts. But if not, use your 1/8 teaspoon and just use half of it. If you have to do the 1/16, I'm saying. So then I added 1/8 of a teaspoon of minced onion. And I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of some garlic powder or granulated garlic, whatever you have, either one, they're the same to me. Then we're going to add in 1/8 of a teaspoon of lemon pepper. This is the lemon pepper that I made with y'all on the channel. Still have a little bit left, so I am going to use a little bit of my homemade lemon pepper in there. And then we're going to add in just a 1/16 of a teaspoon of basil. And if you like different herbs in yours, you can definitely add different things, whatever flavor profile you like. I know some of y'all hate when I say do it how you want to, but I want you to know that it's not a hard and fast recipe. Go by this and then adjust it to your taste. That's the best part about homemade stuff, y'all. Okay, so the next 2 that we're going to do is chicken flavored rice and beef flavored rice. Now, these are the seasonings that I use in my homemade rice-a-roni mixes. So I was like, we got to make one of these. We got to make them. And this is why my jar count was off too, by the way, because I didn't realize I had written these 2 down as one. So for that, I'm adding in a half of a tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder to one and half of a tablespoon of beef bouillon to the other one. Then we're going to add in a half a teaspoon of parsley. And I'm going to do something a little bit different in these, but I think you're going to like it. And I'm putting them over there in the order that I'm making them so I don't get them mixed up before I get the labels on them. So if y'all remember a while back, we dehydrated, I think we did this on the channel. Well, I dehydrated some frozen vegetables. So what I'm going to do for my beef and chicken rice mixes is I'm going to make me some vegetable powder. Now, you certainly don't have to add this if you don't want to, but I like the little bit of vegetable flavor that it gives, and you could add this to all of your rice mixes if you wanted to. I just put a little bit into my little spice grinder, coffee grinder there. I think I will link, I usually link a similar one for y'all on Amazon, but I got mine at Walmart for like less than 10 bucks. Okay, so now I am just putting it through this little tiny mesh strainer just to get the big pieces out, because all I want is a little bit of the powder in here. But do it however you want to. You could put the full vegetables in there, but the frozen vegetables, if they're whole, take a lot longer to rehydrate, and we want this to be a quick, want it to, to cook very quickly. So that's why I wanted to make this into a powder and not use the whole vegetables. Okay, so that is what it looks like when it's all ground up. Again, you don't have to use this if you don't like it or you don't want to, but it is a good sneaky way to get some vegetables in if you've got somebody who doesn't, really like to eat vegetables that much. And don't worry, I didn't throw the rest of that away. I'm going to put it up and use it next time I need it. So I added in just a half a teaspoon of the vegetable powder and then a 1/16 of a teaspoon of pepper. And then I'm adding in a 1/16 of a teaspoon of the garlic powder and onion powder. Okay. And just spoiler alert, the chicken is the one I make at the end of the video for y'all, and it is delicious. They're all delicious. If you've made any of my other rice mixes or the rice-a-roni mixes, that's where these flavors all came from. So if you liked those versions, like the family size version, then you will like these little mini versions. Somebody had asked me for like some hurricane prep food and stuff like that. So I'm trying to come up with some really quick, easy things like this that you can have on your shelf in the offhand chance you lose power for some reason. All right, so next up is onion rice. And y'all know I love me some onions, so we had to do onion rice. A half of a cup of rice into that little jar also. And then I'm going to set it over to the side for our last flavor. But this one is going to be our onion rice. Now, y'all don't talk about my crusty bowl. This is my homemade onion soup mix. If y'all haven't seen that video, you need to watch it. There's some good stuff in there. But if you're not making your own homemade seasonings, really, honestly, you need to start, because they are so much better than the store-bought stuff, and you can control the ingredients that go into them, and you can make them taste exactly how you want. Lots of good things for that. So anyway, I added in 2 teaspoons of the onion soup mix. Then I'm going to add in 1/8 of a teaspoon of parsley. And then I'm going to do a 1/16 of a teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder. Now, my seasoning blend already does have these in there, but in my opinion, you can't really go wrong with adding a tiny bit of extra garlic powder and onion powder. But taste yours, see if that's how you like it. Add whatever you want to. It's going to be delicious either way. So I just added that in there, and that is our onion rice. And this is one of my favorite rice flavorings because it is just so good, y'all. All right, so the last one we're going to do today is yellow rice. So what you're going to need for this one is, of course, your half cup of rice. We've had a half a cup of rice and everything. And we're going to add in 1/8 of a teaspoon of our onion powder and garlic powder, of course. Y'all already know. You already knew it was coming, didn't you? I know you could feel it in your bones that the garlic was coming right behind the onion. So then we're going to add in here, and you know what I did, y'all? I added a 1/16 and I meant to add 1/8. Yeah, that's what I did. That's why you see me going back in here a second time, because I was wondering myself, why am I doing that? It's because I used the little 16th. Now I've got the right size measuring spoon. So 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic and onion also, just to correct myself. And we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric. Now, some people do not like to add pepper with turmeric because it's a tiny bit peppery anyway. And some people find, especially kids, find it's a little bit too much pepper. So make sure that you adjust that to your taste. And then the last thing I added in there was 1/2 teaspoon of butter powder. But again, if you don't want to have, or if you don't have or don't want to use butter powder, you can add just a tiny bit of butter in there if you have it and you want to. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make this, okay? All right, so what you're going to need is equal parts rice and water. So we added 1/2 cup of our rice. So we're going to add 1/2 cup of boiling water. Now, if you're in an emergency situation, you can't boil your water, then hot water will work. It may just take a little bit longer to rehydrate or, to fluff back up. So add your 1/2 cup of boiling water if you have it, and then you're just going to stir your rice up good to get the seasoning mixed in. Sit the lid on top, don't screw it down, and let it sit there for about 5 minutes or until all of the water is absorbed and your rice is nice and soft. Mine took about 5 minutes. And of course, like I said, if you have boiling water, it's going to go a little bit quicker than if you have cooler water, so just keep that in mind. So then I'm just dumping it in a bowl. Now you can eat it out of the jar, but I'm dumping it in the bowl just so y'all can get a good look at it. And of course, I have to spill a little bit because, it's my kitchen. I always spill everything. So just mix it up real good because, the seasonings will kind of sink down to the bottom or whatever the case is. So just make sure you get your seasonings good and mixed in with your rice. And that is it. You have got, in 5 minutes, super tasty, fluffy, completely cooked, flavored rice. Whatever flavor you want it to be. We have 6 different flavors to choose from. So that is it. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. I hope that this is something that you're going to put on your pantry shelf. If you don't want to do single servings, you can make big jars of this too. So anyway, that is all I have for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.